Dabo Swinney agrees with Deion Sanders. And they're not talking about anything other than spring football. I was trying to think of something clever to say there, and I really didn't come up with anything. They want the NCAA to allow joint spring games. I agree with both of them. We'll talk about that in a second. Glad you're hanging out here. You like college football? Like talking Clemson football? Oh, I hope you'll subscribe. It is free. I'm glad you're here. Spring game for Clemson will be this coming Saturday. In the future, it was this past Saturday or a past Saturday. It doesn't matter. But the idea is here that Deion Sanders wanted Fran Brown and Syracuse to have a joint practice or joint spring game, with them. Now, I don't know all the details that Deion wanted, but I will tell you this. Dabo Swinney came out in favor of it, and I'm going to read a little bit of what Coach Swinney said. I think y'all can probably rewind every spring practice for the past 12 years, and I think I've said that for years and years and years. I mean, I've said that forever. I mean, from Pee Wee League to middle school to high school, we are the only level of football to the NFL, and we don't get to practice against anybody. We can't scrimmage anybody. I've never understood that. As a head coach, anytime somebody grabs an ankle, all 22 of them on the field are your guys, right? It'd be nice to only be 50% invested, It just is what it is. Now, let me see a couple of more things. Swinney said they need to be able to go and get comfortable going against each other. You have a practice. You control it. You can do some one-on-one, some pass rush, inside, 7-on-7. There's a lot of things you can do, situational work. I've never understood. In fact, we're the only sport in college that can't do it. Baseball plays people. Soccer plays people. Basketball scrimmage Georgia. I don't know. Who knows? I don't know why we don't half the stuff we do, or why we do half the stuff we do, but that's kind of crazy. Maybe one day. All right. I'm going to take the argument a step farther. I'm going to go a little more than what he's even talking about. Okay. First things first, I agree with him. It would be nice to watch 2 teams or 3 teams, 4 teams, kind of make a day of it. Bounce around. Your squad plays this squad for the spring game. That would be very entertaining. Us true college football fans who are talking about college football right now, the last day of March. If you're watching this in the future, today is the last day of March. We love college football. And we would love to see more college football. We would love to see college football improve. We would love to see college football expand in certain ways. While everybody else is arguing about the transfer portal and about NIL and all of that bunch of stuff, the pros and the cons of it, okay, great, wonderful. What I'm really, really concerned about is trying to set up teams to where they can have more fun, they can grow, and us fans, we just reap the benefit of it. So I see no problem with teams getting together for spring practice. Deion Sanders, requested it. They said I think if my memory serves me correct, NCAA said his request was too late or something. I can't remember what it was. And now you have Coach Swinney coming out saying, hey, I agree with him. But here's the step farther that I want to take, or further. I always get that mixed up. Y'all forgive me. Correct me. I agree 100% with Coach Swinney yet again. that in the off season, all of these other sports at different levels, excuse me, they are scrimmaging. They are practicing against other teams. The NFL has a preseason. College football does not have a preseason. And years ago, and for a long time, I was against the cupcake games at the beginning of the season. I was against it. And as you grow, your opinion changes on some things. On other things, it's like even more solidified. But I changed my opinion on that. I didn't like the cupcake games, but I'll tell you now, if we don't have a preseason, we need the cupcake games in like the first two games. It's a glorified scrimmage that counts towards your record. The past 2 years, playing a tougher team has not worked out well for Clemson at all. And, starting off with Georgia last year, I can't say that changed how the game would have, the result of the game had Clemson played Georgia in Game 3 or Game 4 versus Game 1. I can't say that in 2023, that dumpster fire, that playing Duke in Game 3 would have been different than Game 1. In that game, I think maybe. We'll never know. But it's all fun and games to start off the first weekend of college football with a Clemson versus LSU. Have you seen the games that are being played on? It's technically week 1, not week 0. Week 1 of college football. There's a bunch of big games the same day that Clemson and LSU is getting together. But wouldn't it be nice for Clemson if they're going to play that very first game against LSU or against an Ohio State or an Alabama or Texas or whatever? Wouldn't it be nice if they got into game shape before that with two preseason games? This is where I'm transitioning to adding a preseason of 2 games. 2 games. You don't have to do 3. 2 games. 3 games if you'd like. Here's one of the reasons why. It gives them a chance to truly warm up. It gives them a chance, no matter if it's Clemson or another team or the entire league, it gives them a chance to get the rust off, to build some continuity so that once they are playing their top competition, they're most likely at their best, they have a rhythm, and the best man wins, period. Now, in the Georgia loss and in the Duke loss, and I'm calling you out, fellow Clemson fans, and some of you are not going to like that. You're not going to like this at all, what I'm about to say. But when Clemson lost to Duke, and Barrett Carter after the game said something like, I was not in shape for this game, or I wasn't in game shape. Going into that 2023 season, Barrett Carter was a projected first-round pick. Yeah. Projected first-round pick. And he is sitting there after an embarrassing loss to Duke and goes, I was not in game shape. And I even had some of my friends, somebody I grew up with that was like, well, Brian, you kind of went off about that. Folks, how is it that Duke was in better shape than the Clemson Tigers? You go and you play Georgia last year. Played very well in the first half. Looked like a really good game. We know the final there. And the excuses comes back out. Well, we always start slow. Give yourself a preseason or play 2 cupcake games. Get your feet up under you and take that excuse, and that's all it is. The Clemson Tigers should, at this level of Clemson football and in this era of Clemson football, us Clemson fans are no better than Gamecock fans of making excuses of why our team lost a game. And it needs to stop. It's false integrity. And on top of that, it's just not competitive. It's excuses. Either Clemson is elite and you believe in them, or they're a has-been and we're just going to reminisce about 16 and 18. Playing 2 cupcake games, at the least, would get you more into a mindset of, okay, now we've had 2 games under our belt. But ideally, especially if we're going to keep these big-time games at the very beginning of the year for the Tigers or for anyone else, let's have a 2 to 3 game preseason. And in the spring game, 6 months earlier, 4 months earlier, 5 months earlier, allow some teams to intermingle. The college football game is changing. And there's been some good changes. There has been some bad changes. And there's been conference realignment. Folks, the only other thing that we could do right now that would be quite different would be to go ahead and add a preseason and then allow teams, like in the spring game, to scrimmage and play around with one, play around and have a good time. It would be great for viewers like you and I who love college football. We're dying for college football. I joke around that in week 0 and week 1 and week 2, I will watch the Red Hat ladies of Idaho go up against the blind kids of Montana if it's college football. That's how much I love it. And so, with that said, can you imagine allowing teams to scrimmage against one another and do exercises and 7-on-7 and different challenges during a spring game and then add a preseason? Can you imagine that? I think it would be great for it would not be good for the game. I think it would be great for the game. And then for the money handlers in this entire situation, the same people who told you that we could never expand past a 14 playoff, and then suddenly it happened, and now they're looking at expanding it again. We threw the bullcrap flag on that one, didn't we? I know I did. I was just like, there's some contracts that are tied up somewhere, and they're not going to break them, and they're just having to cover their tails. I mean, if you've been around on this earth more than 5 minutes, you realize that. It sinks through your skull what the crap's happening. But they need to go to a preseason, and that would be great. It would drive viewership. People would love it, eat it up. It would be fun. It would be fun. If you did a 4-game preseason, do 2 against some cupcake schools, and then do 2. Can you imagine a preseason of Clemson versus Ohio State? Can you imagine a preseason of, say, Georgia versus Texas? Or Michigan versus, I'm just trying to pull someone out of the hat here. Michigan versus Texas A&M, something like that. It would be fun. And here's the next thing it would do. It would get rid of all the excuses of why fill-in-the-blank team wasn't in game shape. You have a season coming up, and you're playing for an elite school. Now, if you're playing at Wake Forest, who cares? No offense, Demon Deeks. If you're playing somewhere like Clemson, those words can never dance off your tongue, off your lips, unless you're in the next sentence waiting to say, yeah, we're not elite anymore. At least be honest with yourself. Get to the comment section real quick. David Woody, you are back. Love it. Good to see you, David Woody. Thanks for supporting the channel. See the symbol beside your name. We need 3 preseason games. Okay, Will, man. Good to see you. Still pissed the spring game is not on TV. I know, Liam. It's crazy. Timmy B. Hey, buddy, why is it not on TV? I can't remember why, but it's not on TV. Yeah, they stopped televising spring games anymore. Tiger 24, Tiger Fan 24. Yeah, they're also some teams are not playing spring games. I think Texas is one of them. Yeah, the spring game is free if you go. We may not like it, but you're right. I'm sure there will be a cinematic highlight thing the program will put out. Oh yeah, it will. They will, and they'll make it look really exciting, even if it's bad. I expect Clemson to do to. Let me rephrase this. Expectation is a compliment. That means that you have a lot of the pieces to be competitive. So, if you want to be elite, you have to come with the pressure. You have to come to accept the pressure that of the expectation. If no one expects anything out of you, that's not a compliment, and that's not that fake integrity stuff of we're just not spoiled here at Clemson. No, if you don't have the expectation of your team, that means they're not good anymore. And I'm not saying that towards you, my friend. I'm just saying that overall, it could be awful, and they're going to make it look good. I say go to the spring game if you can make it this Saturday. Matthew, good to see you drop some lights, folks. What do you want? Would you like a spring intermingling of teams? If so, how many teams? Also in the preseason, do you want a preseason? If so, how long of a preseason would you like? Do you like the idea that I have about having like 2 cupcake preseason games and then have 2 marquee preseason games where you have like an Ohio State versus Texas or something like that? Let me know what you think. I think that it could be fun. And if anything, if you don't want a preseason, can we just agree to have 2 cupcake games at the front of the season? Go ahead and get your feet up under you, get your cleats nice and tied. And so once it's time to play the games, you have absolutely no excuse of why you're either great or you're terrible or you're just subpar and you're overrated. I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of that part of it. So anyway, I hope you'll subscribe. It is free if you like talking college football, like talking Clemson football, like arguing about it a little bit, but you like to keep it civil because at the end of the day, this is just a game and it truly doesn't matter, but it's fun. It's a nice escape. Y'all take care of yourself, and as always, go Tigers.